What's up, everyone? Today, we're going to talk about how to get your offer accepted in this crazy market. So as you probably know, there's a big shortage of inventory on the market today. Not a lot of houses for sale, not a lot of people selling. So when you see a house that you love, it's not just you that loves it, it's about 200 other people. So when you decide to make an offer on it, you need to put your best foot forward and your best offer from the very beginning so that yours stands out above all the rest and gets picked. So today, we're going to talk about what some of those things that you can do are to make that offer stand out. My name is Gramling, and I'm a realtor here in the Nashville area, and I'm putting out weekly videos just trying to help you get more familiar with Nashville, surrounding area. If you're thinking about moving here or relocating, I'm here to answer all of those questions for you. But today we're going to take a little detour, and with all of the offers that we've been making, we've been having success in getting a lot of them accepted, so that's exciting. But I wanted to take a detour from our neighborhood tours and things today to get you more familiar with the offer process and what you would need to do once you find that house to get that offer accepted. Let's go ahead and jump into some of those things that you can do to make your offer stand out. So the first thing that should happen is that your agent should call the listing agent. This is always just good practice to touch base with them and find out what's important to the sellers. So you may think a quick close is the most important thing to a seller, but that may not always be the case. And a lot of times the listing agent will share some of these things with you. Sometimes a buyer needs to stay in their house a little bit longer while they find another house to buy. So they might want to close quickly, but they may also want to lease that house back from you for a bit so that they have the time to then go and find their home. And if you have the flexibility to do that sort of thing, then you can put those things in your offer, and that will make it stand out to them, and you're appealing to all of the things that they want. So sometimes it's not just all about the money. Sometimes it's about the other things that go into the contract that are important to the sellers. And those are the things that you want to know, things like that. So your agent should always reach out to the listing agent and see what things are important to them, if they'll share that information, to think about and talk about what accommodations can you make that would make your offer stand out and be better. So contacting the listing agent is always a good first place to start. Okay, so number two, the next thing you can do is to pay cash if at all possible. Now, of course, not all of us have the luxury of having enough cash laying around to just go pay cash for a house. Some of us do and some of us don't. And if you can, you should. But sometimes there's other ways around this. So you may have enough equity in your house that you could go pay cash for another house, but your house isn't sold yet. And then you need this sale to be contingent on that sale. Well, one way around that would be to go ahead and sell that house. So you can negotiate, as I talked about earlier, a lease back so that you go ahead and close on your home. You have all that equity, the money has been paid out, and then you're still in your home for another couple of months. Then you have the ability to go and put the money down on a house and say, this isn't contingent on anything, we have the cash, no financing is necessary, and that offer is going to be a lot more attractive than one with just traditional financing. And the reason that cash is so attractive to sellers is that so many things can always go wrong with financing. Something can come up that wasn't seen before, the deal can fall through before it's finally completed. So if the seller has an option for a cash deal or one that could possibly have problems, they're obviously going to choose the cash. The other benefit to paying cash is that you can waive your appraisal. Now, this isn't something that, people were accustomed to doing up until very recently, but, with the high demand for these houses and what they're selling for, they're not always appraising right now. And then that's obviously a personal choice on your part. But some people are just choosing to waive the appraisal. They understand that they're paying more than what the house is worth right now, but they do believe that that value is going to come up in time. And so they're willing to go ahead and put in the extra money now and then have that equity build up over time as they hold on to the house. Now, this may or may not be something that you want to do, even if you're paying cash. Maybe you want to know that the house will appraise, in which case, you would hang on to that appraisal contingency. But a lot of people paying cash right now will go ahead and waive that. And that's just one less thing that the seller has to worry about, because if they come back and say the house didn't appraise, then their deal has fallen through if you're not willing to bring cash or they're not willing to lower their price. Now, one trick is that if you do have some cash, but maybe not enough to pay for the entire house, so you still have to have that appraisal contingency, one thing you can do is agree to bring extra cash to close, so that will give the seller a little more peace of mind. So if your lender will only finance up to 80% of the value of the home and the home doesn't appraise, then you're responsible to bring that extra cash to closing. So if you can say, okay, yes, the house may not appraise and my lender will not finance it more than 80%, but I have $20,000 cash extra that I'm willing to bring to close to make the deal happen, or something of that nature, then you can put that in the contract as well. So then they have some peace of mind. So that's just a couple little tips of how you can use cash when it comes to making an offer on your house. So another thing that you can do, which is kind of an obvious one, is offer over list price, which most people are right now. So if you're buying a house and there are multiple competing offers, which in Nashville, there are on almost every single house, unless it's grossly overpriced, you're going to be paying over ask. Your agent can go back, they can show you, especially in that neighborhood, in that area, in the last month or two, what things have been closing at for over asking price, so that you don't just go, and throw $100,000 extra at it that you didn't have to. So you can look at the history of the sales and see what they've been selling for, but someone may come in and just offer, $200,000 over, no appraisal, and there's nothing you can do about that. But I do think that's a little farther in between. So there is some logic that goes into it, but at the end of the day, it's what you feel the house is worth to you to have. All of that in conjunction, of course, with your lender, if you have a lender, and if you have to have an appraisal, like we talked about before. So there are some limits to that, but whatever the house is worth to you. So if you're willing to go over asking price, that is going to help you. You probably will have to in this market. And just to add on to that a little bit, of course you don't want to go in and just overpay, like we said. So one thing you can do, and this is not acceptable in all states, it is in Tennessee, but some agents like it, some agents don't. Another risk that you take, but you can add an escalation clause. So if a house is $300,000 and you're willing to offer $320,000, but you really don't want to lose the house. So you make your offer $320,000, but what you can do is say, in your special stipulations, you can say, okay, but I will offer $2,000 over any competing bid up to a maximum dollar amount. So you might say, okay, my offer is $320,000, but I'll offer $2,000 over the highest competing bid up to $345,000 if you're really willing to go that high. But like I said, not all agents love this. This can get confusing. Sometimes it's just better to go in with your highest and best, but just know that that's an option for you here in Tennessee. Another thing that you can do, which some people do get kind of nervous about, is waiving inspection. Now, I never advise my clients to 100% waive their inspection, but what you can do is agree to not ask for any repairs. So you still have your inspection, you still get to see what is good, what's bad with the home, what needs work and repairs. So based on that information, you can either go forward with the purchase of the home or you can walk away. Basically, what you're saying is you're not going to nickel and dime these people for small repairs, for a window leak, for paint or cosmetic issues, but you're still having your inspection. So if there are structural issues, if there are cracks in the ceiling, if there are a lot of defects in the house, you can write that into the verbiage that, okay, you're not going to accept this house as is if there's major problems, and you can even specify a dollar amount. We'll go ahead and move forward with the purchase as long as there are no items over $5,000 that need repair. So again, this just gives the seller peace of mind that they're not going to accept this over asking price, and then you're going to come back and ask for $20,000 in cosmetic repairs. It is what it is. The market is what it is. So it just gives the sellers peace of mind that you're not going to come back and ask for a lot of little things that add up to a lot of money after going over asking price. But it still then also gives you the peace of mind that you still get to look at the house and make a determination if there are so many things wrong with it or very severe issues that you don't actually want to buy the house. So you always want to keep that inspection contingency in place, in my opinion. You of course are able to make whatever choices you want to make your offer as strong as it can be. But my recommendation is always to keep that inspection contingency in place. But if you can and you're willing to accept the house as is without any major repairs, then that is also going to place your offer far and away above others who aren't willing to do that. Okay, so another thing that you can offer to do is to pay for title work, closing costs, and things like that. So these are all expenses to sellers. It is a seller's market, so if these are expenses that you're willing to take on in order to sweeten the deal and make your offer look better, then those are things that you can offer to pay. The title work is kind of expensive. Obviously, any money that you're willing to offer towards closing costs or title work, those sorts of things, just is obviously a bonus. So one thing that you should always be doing, whether you're paying cash or you have financing, is sending proof of funds or your pre-approval letter from your bank or your lender. So they want to see that you have the funds to make this purchase happen. So I don't know that there's anyone who's writing an offer right now who doesn't write it and send it with the proof of funds or the approval letter from the bank with proof of funds if you're providing cash as well. So I'll have a lot of people contact me, they're ready to make an offer, they want to go, but they're not pre-approved. You need to be pre-approved, and sometimes houses are being picked up in hours. So if you see a house and you like it and you're not pre-approved, there's a chance that you could miss out on that house. So before you even start house hunting, or if you have and you're already looking but you're not pre-approved, I highly suggest that you get pre-approved and get that pre-approval letter to your agent so that they can go ahead and have that on file and ready to send out when they send your offer. And if you're paying cash, get that proof of funds from your bank statement, letter from the bank, whatever it might be, and get that over to your agent as well so that they can have that on hand to send on over with your offer when you send it. In the offer instructions these days, it always asks for that, but really any agent is always sending that when they send their offers. Otherwise, there's a good chance it won't be considered. Okay, so we talked about this in the beginning, but I'm gonna touch on it again, is post-occupancy agreement. So a lot of people are either one, building because they can't find another place to live, or two, they need to find that place to live and they're not wanting to sell as much because they're afraid they won't have the time to find another place to go. So offering a post-occupancy agreement, if they're in need of that, will obviously make your offer more attractive. So we're putting in an offer on a house this week, and the people who are selling the house are building. Their house won't be ready until June, but they would like to have the house closed. They want to have the funds so that they can go ahead and fund the rest of that building, but they also don't want to be in a hotel for 2 months. So really it's just convenience for the seller. If at all, you can work that out. So if you have the flexibility and you can say, okay, I can go ahead and close, I can rent this back to you, you're making that money back. You know, if you've already closed on your house, then maybe that's an option for you. If you're renting and you don't have a house to sell and you can go month to month and go ahead and close on that house and get the rent back, this is a great option. It just gives people the freedom and convenience, you know, to go forward with whatever plans that they have. If they're building or if they're looking for another home, it gives them a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of cushion so that they don't have to stress so much about getting everything done in that short amount of time, and makes everybody's life easier. So, you know, sometimes they may not pick the highest offer. They may pick the offer that gives them, you know, more time in the house. So just finding that out from the listing agent, how much time they need to be in that house and writing that into your offer will really help your offer a lot. And to just add to that, some people choose to let them have a free post-occupancy agreement. So again, if you have the freedom or the means to do this, to allow them to stay in their house an extra month rent-free might make that a really appealing option for them. So maybe you don't have the extra cash to put down on the house, but you can go ahead and forego that first month and not have them pay you rent back. Then that's another way to do that. Give them a month free to stay in the house, and maybe that will, you know, be more enticing to them. So just another thing to think about. Okay, and this is the last thing I'm gonna touch on, and it might kind of seem like a no-brainer, but this isn't always the case. Make sure that your agent, whoever they are sending in all of the necessary paperwork and documents with your offer when they send it. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen it, time and again, listing agents complaining about buyer's agents sending in incomplete documents, incomplete contracts. So it's not just the offer that your agent is sending over. There's a whole list of documents typically that are required. And some agents don't put in the time to do that. They don't fill them in correctly. And that made them a little bit leery of working with this agent because they were worried that throughout the deal that maybe this would be a problem. So if you're not willing to put in the work and fill out all of the appropriate documentation from the beginning, you know, maybe they're worried that you're not gonna meet your deadlines. They're not gonna get your inspection done on time, or that you won't get all the necessary paperwork filled out by when it's supposed to be filled out. They want to know that they're working with an agent and a buyer that will make a smooth transaction that's going to be completed, that's going to be finished. So if you're sending in incomplete documentation and not the right forms, so that may be a red flag to them that, okay, they have a high offer, but are we actually going to get the deal done? So that's something that listing agents think about. So you want to make sure that your agent is sending in all the appropriate paperwork together in one nice pretty package tied up with a nice little bow, so that when they get it, they know, okay, this person has a great offer, it's written nicely, they have all of the appropriate documentation, and this will be a smooth transaction from start to finish. And that's the reassurance that they're going to want to need. So make sure that your agent is organized, they're together, and they're on top of things, and this is the person that you need representing you. Okay, so that's just a few tips and tricks that I have Obviously, every offer isn't going to get accepted in this market, but you can certainly try to set yourself apart from everyone else and do the best you can. Obviously, you may not be able to remove all contingencies, and maybe you're one of those blessed people who can. So all you can do is kind of look through here and see which obstacles you can remove and try to remove as many of those things as you can. So if you're fully financed, that's fine. Can you take away your inspection contingency, at least as much as possible? Can you remove some of that fear by bringing some extra cash to close if it doesn't appraise? Things like that. So just try to look at this list and see, what are the things that I can do to make my offer look the most attractive to someone else. Again, my name is Jen Gramling, and I'm a realtor here in Nashville and the surrounding areas. If you have any questions at all about moving here or relocating, be sure to reach out to me. You can reach me by text, by email, you can give me a call, just however you want to reach out. I'd be happy to answer any and all of your questions. And next week, we'll be back out hitting the streets for some more neighborhood tours, but I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about when you find that perfect house, how you can get it. So be sure to check back in next week for more neighborhood tours. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next video.